Hey guys, what's going on? Back with another Cold War Zombies video, and I'm going to try and make this kind of a short one because it's going to be a cool theory slash maybe, again, like I've mentioned before, what I would want in maybe the future storyline of Cold War Zombies, or maybe tying into the next Call of Duty game, or maybe even the next Black Ops game in a few more years, or it might actually kind of summarize or kind of give some ideas of stuff that we might have missed in the past, because this makes looks like it would make the most sense. So at the end of Mauer Toten cutscene, or even in some of the intel, they talk about the Forsaken one. I think it used to be called the Accursed one, so I don't know if there's more entities in the Dark Aether. So that could be another thing that we're missing. It could be the Accursed one in the Dark Aether, and now it could be also the Forsaken one in the Dark Aether. Could be more people coming out of the Dark Aether, not necessarily Treyarch retconning or changing the name of the Accursed one. But there might actually be more entities in there, as we probably know by now, if you've been following the story. There's kind of like I don't know, I forget the names and stuff sometimes, but let's say the overlords of the Dark Aether, the ones who are the most biggest and most powerful, that are kind of like tucked away in the Dark Aether. Um, I guess like legends. I don't want to say legends, but maybe more like big super entities, the most powerful ones in the Dark Aether. So there might be multiple of them in there. Because Treyarch does stuff pretty clever, as I've mentioned before, and they might have us thinking that maybe the Forsaken one and the Cursed one is the same person, but it might actually be two separate people. But for this, I'm just going to talk about the Forsaken. I'm going to skip over the Accursed one, assuming they're two different entities that are in there. If not, maybe Treyarch did change it, so I'm not saying which way is correct, but might just give you another idea of what they could be doing. So the Forsaken one saying is somebody who's abandoned or deserted. So as I've mentioned in the last few days or weeks, it made me start thinking about Dr. Edward Richtofen, who, as we probably know, at the end of the cut scene was left. Let's just say left hanging, but he not literally hanging, but he was left abandoned um, in the Alcatraz map, and he was kind of inside um, the blood. I'm bad with names because I kind of like I look more into the backstory stuff, and I follow what's going on in the main game and stuff like that. But I'm so bad with names. But let's just say the blood machine that took or drained his blood, and we don't know if Primus or not Primus, but Victus saved him, or if he was left there hanging and he did die. Maybe he went to the afterlife. Who knows? But let's just go along with the fact that he was left there. He was abandoned by Primus and Ultimus, um, and maybe Victus came and they saved him. But again, so that's just giving a little bit of backstory, but not necessarily the angle that I'm going down or trying to figure out what Treyarch has planned, or again, give a good idea of what could be coming. So I'm gonna go back to the Forsaken. So, and it's a lot of biblical stuff also, and you guys know Treyarch in Call of Duty has a lot of like Bible and biblical undertones, and you can kind of see the symbolism between Richtofen and maybe Jesus Christ being left on the cross to die. He gets resurrected or reborn, kind of the same story. So this could be, paralleling how Jesus was left on the cross to die, and he eventually got resurrected. I don't know if there's a story, because I'm not great at it, if there was a person who resurrected him or he did it on his own. And then there's whole like ancient alien stuff that comes into that also, which I'm not gonna go over, but that's something that probably would fit perfectly. Um, so maybe there were like some aliens or Decepticons that went from like planet to planet and resurrected certain people. And on Earth, it happened to be Jesus Christ at that one point. So again, the Forsaken one is somebody who's abandoned or deserted. There's a couple other meanings. Um, to quit or leave entirely, abandon, desert. So this is kind of another version of that. So Richtofen was left and abandoned to die on the machine in Blood of the Dead. So, so basically, that is just giving it in a nutshell. And it also just says, funny enough, like I tell people I do this live. I don't like kind of plan everything. You can tell how sometimes I stumble over words and stuff like that, because I don't want to have to do like 5 takes and stuff like that and clip stuff together and edit stuff. But I'm figuring this out as soon as as the same time as you guys are. Says, why did Jesus Christ say God forsaken him, or God abandoned him? So I'm not going to go too much into the whole biblical angle of it. So I'm just going to stay within the Call of Duty lore and Treyarch lore. So maybe somehow Richtofen went to the Dark Ether and got abandoned. It could also mean Victus, but I'm going to stay with the Richtofen angle of it, because um, Nolan North did say that he's not voicing Richtofen in Cold War, but he could be voicing the Forsaken one, which looks like it might be Richtofen that got abandoned. So the Forsaken one means that it's somebody who's got abandoned. So again, this is where it's going to go into more stuff that I would want, or trying to figure out what Treyarch is going to go with this. And as you got, most people probably don't know, even people that's been doing this for probably like 12 years or 10 years in the zombies community, everything Treyarch puts in Call of Duty has inspiration from something from pop culture. It's paying respects to the stuff that came before them, honoring some of the stuff that came before them, stuff that they liked when they were kids and younger, and they want to kind of use that story and bring it to the new generation of players and kids or viewers and stuff like that. So the whole idea would come from Transformers the movie, where I'm just going to read one line. So if you're not familiar with the characters, Megatron is the leader of the bad guys, or leader of the Decepticons, and he was left by the Decepticons to die. I think they they kind of overthrew him and threw him out into space to die on his own, and he was floating around for a couple years and months or whatever. And he gets kind of reborn by what I would call like the Apothicon sun, the blue sun, whoops, which is called Unicron. So Unicron saw Megatron floating in the air, abandoned by the Decepticons. And the same thing like the blue Apothicon sun in Revelations, how everything would tie in so perfectly. So the blue Apothicon sun, which is actually not a sun or a planet, it's actually a being. But again, you would have to do research, which I know people don't. They just kind of come up with the quickest, fastest theory, throw it up on YouTube, and try and sell it as fact, and without any proof or research. They just kind of like, oh, this looks like a planet, or this looks like a sun. I'm going to say it's the sun. I'm going to make a quick video, make a quick buck off of it. I'm not going to do any research at all. But what people didn't realize back then, and I'm not going to show too much of the inspiration, I'm just going to stay within the Transformers universe, that Unicron is basically what the blue Apothicon being is. I don't want to use the word sun because that's fake news. It's a blue being that birthed the Leviathans, and the Leviathans spat the 115 from planet to planet, infecting it and stuff like that. So let's just say the blue Apothicon sun, or entity or being, found Richtofen either at Alcatraz or floating in space, and cuts the deal with the devil. Same thing as Faust, and Faust is a big story. So instead of like us selling our souls to Monty and the Shadow Man, now Richtofen wants revenge on everyone, so he cuts a deal with the Apothicon being, evil being, which is same thing as Unicron, to get reborn into a bigger, stronger Richtofen. And in the Transformer universe, that ends up being called Galvatron. So Megatron, just to kind of, I'm gonna give you the Transformers line of how it works. So Megatron gets overthrown by Decepticons, gets abandoned in space. Unicron finds Megatron and cuts a deal with him to do his bidding for him, and then Megatron gets reborn into Galvatron. So that's that version. So it goes Megatron to Galvatron, and he was reborn or resurrected by Galvatron. in the Call of Duty lore, it would be Richtofen gets abandoned by Primus Ultimus. Not maybe really Victus. Victus might actually be his friend. They might have been the one that also found him. So it goes, Richtofen gets abandoned by Primus and Ultimus, um, and then maybe the Blue Apothicon entity or being finds him and resurrects him into a bigger, stronger, more deadly person called the Forsaken One. Again, this doesn't necessarily cover or retcon the whole accursed one. It could be multiple people in there. The accursed one could still be Monty or the Shadow Man or the Worm or whatever it's called. So maybe Treyarch are putting out different storylines, having a backup plan just in case people don't like the Richtofen Forsaken One angle. They could go back and say, hey, there's also the accursed one that's still in the dark ether. So that's that. So that would be that paralleling, and it does come from a pop culture reference that now Richtofen gets reborn by the Apothicon being into the Forsaken One, and he goes back now. And well, Primus and Ultimus are also already dead, so maybe he's gonna go after like either just humans in general, or Samantha or Requiem, or I don't know who he would go after. Maybe for some reason, Omega probably. And you know what I thought would be actually kind of cool in a way is Megatron may have been hinted by Megaton. Um, so I was thinking how cool that would be. Like all the time we got Megatons in the Die Machine, we would have probably that was probably a big hint that we were gonna get like a Megatron character towards the end. That would be a cool little Easter egg. Again, this is just something as a side story or what I would want, but I'm not sure where Treyarch is entirely going with it. But it does make sense that the Forsaken One, like Richtofen, was abandoned by everyone, and now he is gonna wants to leave the Dark Ether and get his revenge, kind of like how Megatron wanted to get his revenge when he became Galvatron. And maybe people wanted to take his. Maybe Richtofen was the leader at one point, and maybe he wants revenge on Sam or Nikolai. Maybe Nikolai's not dead. Maybe he wants revenge on Nikolai for taking over his group, or um, maybe Nikolai started another group or something like that, and he wants to come back and take control. It would be exactly the same story. Again, not to say that Transformers originated the story. It's probably biblical stuff, as you probably know. Maybe people, or the Faust story, as people know, which is heavily influenced in Call of Duty. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know it's a little bit complicated, so if it's, or I always tell people, you know what, just go to the source. Go rent Transformers 1984 movie, or 1986 movie, and it is an 80s movie, and we are in the 80s timeline. So go and rent that. You want to get an idea of maybe, Galvatron, Unicron, and the Apothicon Sun, and stuff like that. You might want to go check that out. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. If it's a little bit complicated, you don't understand any of this, let me know, then I'll kind of maybe sum it up a little bit better. Alright, I'll see you guys later.